interesting icons up there this week. I can't wait to get into it. Well, welcome again. Today I want to start off asking you, what do you think these three things have in common? The so-called children's book, Watership Down, if you read that. This one's maybe a little hard to see. It's kind of blurry. This is the town of Woodbury from The Walking Dead. Anyone? Any Walking Dead fans here? It's early on. It's like there has to be, statistically, there has to be more of you. Okay, there are a couple. I mean, all right. The movie The Stepford Wives, based on a book. What do these three things have in common? I think they all teach us to be distrustful of things that appear to be too perfect. And even if you haven't seen any of those things, if you don't know what I'm talking about with that, you know this in life. We have an inherent inbuilt distrust of anything that looks too good to be true. It's a saying for a reason, because we believe it. Now, that may sound pessimistic, that may sound negative. I call it realistic. That's just how life is. But here's what I want to say. Today, as we embark on our message, I want you to carry with you a little bit of healthy suspicion. All right, even if you're not a suspicious person by nature, I want you to carry with you a little bit of suspicion into this week's message, because as we dive into this week, we are going to look at another broken hero, but this broken hero is known as the wealthiest, wisest king of all of Israel's history, maybe of the entire ancient world. His name was King Solomon. And yet, I want you to be a little suspicious about everything that looks so great on the outside. We're gonna jump right into his story today, looking at 1 Kings chapter 2. This is where Solomon's father, King David, who we just spent the last 2 weeks talking about, this is when he's passing the baton to his son. When the time drew near for David to die, he gave a charge to Solomon, his son. I'm about to go the way of all the earth, he said. So be strong, act like a man, and observe what the Lord your God requires. Walk in obedience to him and keep his decrees and commands, his laws and regulations, as is written in the law of Moses. Do this so that you may prosper. See, God wants to prosper people. So do this so that you may prosper in all you do and wherever you go. And also do this so that the Lord may keep his promise to me. This is what God said to me, David says. If your descendants watch how they live, and if they walk faithfully before me with all their heart and soul, you will never fail to have a successor on the throne of Israel. So David says, you know what, I'm about to die. I'm gonna give you some advice, the keys to my leadership success. 2 things: be a man and be faithful. Be faithful to God. And if you do those things, you will be successful. So Solomon hears that, be a man, okay, and the next thing he does is he goes out and he kills 3 of his greatest adversaries, kills them dead. By the way, Solomon's name means peace. I don't know if I told you that, but irony, I don't know, maybe he's keeping peace. So he goes, I'm gonna be strong. He kills these 3 bad guys, these guys who are a threat to him, has them mowed down right away. Be strong, be a man. And then the second part, be faithful, he's gonna struggle with that, because 1 Kings chapter 3, right after he gets these other 3 guys killed off, here's what happens. Solomon made an alliance with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and married his daughter. Now, there is a lot of history between Israel and Egypt. Some of you know this. Egypt kept the Israelites hostage as slaves for a couple 100 years. So this is a little, this is like a sleeping with the enemy or sleeping with the enemy's daughter kind of situation here. Kind of questionable. It gets more interesting here. So Solomon brought her to the city of David, to the capital, until he finished building his palace and the temple of the Lord and the wall around Jerusalem. The people, however, were still sacrificing at the high places because a temple had not yet been built for the name of the Lord. Let me just explain briefly what the high places are, because this is gonna be important. The high places were literally mountains, hill places where there were altars set up to worship pagan gods, false gods, idols. And the Israelites kind of kept getting swept up in the worship practices of their neighbors. In part, I won't go into detail, in part because the worship practices of their neighbors involved a lot of things that were kind of alluring. There was some sexuality involved in it. There was some drunkenness involved in it. It was kind of fun to worship that way. So they would go and they would worship that way. And so what we see here is that the people were sacrificing at the high places. God's people were sacrificing to false gods, to idols. And this is kind of interesting. It says because a temple had not yet been built for the name of the Lord, it's kind of like an excuse. Like, oh, well, they didn't have a temple yet. And it's true that there hadn't been a temple yet, but there was a tabernacle. There was a place where they could worship God. This is no excuse. So there's a problem in Israel. It gets worse. It says, Solomon showed his love for the Lord, Yahweh, the true God, by walking according to these instructions given to him by his father David, except that he also offered sacrifices and burned incense on the high places. So he didn't worship the true God. The king went to Gibeon to offer sacrifices there, for that was the most important high place. And Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. 1,000 burnt offerings to the wrong God. But at Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon during the night in a dream, and God said, "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." Solomon answered, "You have shown great kindness to your servant, my father David, because he was faithful to you and righteous and upright in heart. You have continued this great kindness to him and have given him a son to sit on his throne to this very day. Now, Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David, but I'm only a little child and I do not know how to carry out my duties. Your servant is here among your people that you have chosen, a great people too numerous to count or number. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this people of yours?" Now, just a quick note here about God's timing. I was studying this text and working on this message earlier in the week. And the very morning that I was reading this part and kind of wrestling through this part, I happened to take a quick break and I looked at Instagram and I saw this video. Take a look.
Do you think kids should be able to vote?
No. If they got a chance to vote, they might make a wrong choice. You have to grow up and think everything through before you start to vote.
Do you think you would make a good president?
I don't think right now, but probably in the future. Look, you can be the president because if you were the president, you'd have to you might not know how much work you get and how stressed you'd probably get because a bunch of people will be crowding around you and taking pictures and you'll be really stressed because a bunch of cameras coming down at you, maybe even helicopters just taking pictures is very stressing.
How do you know all this?
Listening to the facts that are really important, and it's taught me a lot.
How old are you?
6. I think we're good.
Are you done here?
Yep.
No more questions?
No more questions. I'm good now.
Well, thank you, sir.
Bye.
Right? I'm only a little child. I don't know what I'm doing to govern your people, to lead. I'm not there yet. That's what Solomon is saying to God. And maybe that explains why he's in the high places to begin with. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's afraid. His father David was a great king. He's trying to be a great king. He's grasping at straws. He's looking for help from somewhere. He says, I'd be a terrible president right now. I'd be a terrible king. God, I need your help. And of course, that's a request that God cannot scorn. And so the Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for this. So God said to him, "Since you have asked for this and not for long life and wealth for yourself, nor have you asked for the death of your enemies, but for discernment in administering justice, I will do what you have asked. I will give you a wise and discerning heart, so that there will never have been anyone like you, nor will there ever be. Moreover, I will give you what you have not asked for, both wealth and honor, so that in your lifetime you will have no equal among kings." And that part's a guarantee, but this part's conditional. "And if you walk in obedience to me and keep my decrees and commands, as David your father did, I will give you a long life." Then Solomon awoke and he realized it had been a dream. And so he returned back home to Jerusalem. He stood in the right place before the ark of the Lord's covenant and sacrificed burnt offerings and fellowship offerings there. Then he gave a feast for all his court. I'll tell you, I love this because you have this guy who's kind of lost his way. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's sacrificing in the wrong place. And God walks into that place. He walks into the enemy's turf. What is a God like you doing in a place like this, right? God, what are you doing in Gibeon? This is not your temple. This is not your place. And yet God waltzes into this place of idolatry. And he goes there not to smack Solomon around. Maybe he was flexing a little on the rival gods, like, I can go where I want. Maybe. But he comes to Solomon and he tries to woo him, right? Solomon, what are you doing here? Hey, what is it you're looking for? What do you need? I'm the guy to look to for answers. And of course, Solomon asked for wisdom, and that's what God gives him. He graciously meets him there. And it seems like this approach works because Solomon leaves the high places. He leaves Gibeon. He goes back to Jerusalem where the Ark of the Covenant is. He makes sacrifices. He worships in the right place to the right God. And as a result, he gets right with God and he gets incredible wisdom. The very next verses, we're not going to look at this, is when Solomon gives this famous verdict of two women squabbling over a baby, and he says, cut the baby in half, and it's kind of this way of getting to the truth of the issue. He's incredibly wise, but here's what I also want to point out today. Maybe you've heard about Solomon's wisdom before. I want to show you that even bigger than Solomon's wisdom, I want to show you what appears to be happening on the bigger scene of Israel. See, if you've been with us in this series, you know that going all the way back to Abraham, God had been making promises to this people. He told Abraham, a guy who had no children, he said, you're gonna be a father, but not just a father, you're gonna be a father to a great nation. Remember this? A nation so great that your descendants will be more numerous than the stars in the sky or the sand on the seashore. And he says, and I'm gonna give you, you're a nomad, I'm gonna give you a great land. It's gonna be a spacious land, an abundant land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And I'm gonna bless your people. I'm gonna bless you so much that not only will you be blessed, but you will become a blessing to all nations. Does this sound familiar if you've been with us? Yeah. God made this promise to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob. He repeated it through Moses. He repeated it through David. Again and again and again, God made this promise over and over again. And it looks like under Solomon, it's all finally coming to fruition. Now look at 1 Kings 4. Look at the language here. The people of Judah and Israel, and this is just a reminder that in a very short time from this moment, the kingdoms will be split between Israel and Judah, a northern kingdom, a southern kingdom, but they're still together at this time. The people of Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand on the seashore. And they ate and they drank and they were happy, right? They had an abundance, a land flowing with milk and honey. And Solomon ruled over all the kingdoms, all the way from the Euphrates, way over in the heart of the Middle East, to the land of the Philistines, as far as the border of Egypt, expansive borders. And these countries brought tribute and were Solomon's subjects all his life. God gave Solomon wisdom and very great insight and a breadth of understanding as measureless as the sand on the seashore. Solomon's wisdom was greater than the wisdom of all the people of the East and greater than all the wisdom of Egypt. He was wiser than anyone else, including all these guys we don't even know about, and his fame spread to all the surrounding nations. He spoke 3,000 proverbs, these words of wisdom, and songs numbered 1,005. He spoke about plant life. He was an expert botanist, right? From the cedars of Lebanon to the hyssop that grows out of the walls. He also spoke about animals and birds and reptiles and fish. From all nations, get this, from all nations, people came to be blessed by Solomon's wisdom, sent by all the kings of the world who had heard of his wisdom. See, if you're an average Israelite citizen living during this time, you're looking around and you're like, this is it. God has fulfilled his promise to us. We are living the dream. This is the golden age. We're a vast nation, numerous descendants. We've got an abundance of food and drink, a land flowing with milk and honey. There's plenty of good food to eat and drink. Everybody's happy. We've got these borders that stretch far and wide. Not only do we have peace from our enemies, but our enemies are bringing us tribute. We're the big player in town. And not only are they bringing us tribute, but we're not only blessed, we're blessing everybody else. All nations are coming to be blessed by the wisdom of Solomon. You're looking around and you're saying, God has fulfilled his promises to us. This is amazing. We're living the dream here. But remember what I told you at the beginning, right? Be distrustful of anything that looks too perfect. Although living in Israel at this time looked like, man, this is perfect, something is not quite right. Something is missing. And in fact, Solomon, even though he looks like he's doing a great job, deep down, he knows that something is missing too. And the way you can tell that Solomon knows is that Solomon has this relentless drive to achieve and do and pursue more. So he builds God a temple, the thing that David wasn't allowed to do, and builds this great temple. And then he goes and he builds himself an even grander palace. David had a palace, Solomon builds himself a grander palace. And then that's not enough, so he takes on big public works initiatives, infrastructure projects. We are not the only ones. He did it too, and that's not enough. And then he's got all this gold lying around, so he starts to fit the army's shields with gold just to be fancy like that, right? And then he's got all these chariots, thousands of chariots, and then he's got even tens of thousands of horses, and that stuff's not enough. So he has 700 wives of royal birth. 700 treaties with different kings, alliances through these royal wives, 700 royal wives, and that's not enough. So he has 300 concubines, people who didn't have royal status, but were his wives nevertheless. And that's not enough. Solomon cannot stop. That's how you know something is missing. And I'm going to be frank here. This should speak to all of us right now. Because although we aren't kings or queens, the reality is, for most of us, we live better than most of history's kings and queens did. We've got lives that are enviable by everybody's standards. And yet, isn't it true that sometimes you can look around your life and you can say, I'm living the dream, look at all the stuff I have, look at how everything looks great, everything appears to be great. We can't stop, can we? Deep down, you know something's missing, and that puts us on this treadmill of wanting more and more and more and more, trying to figure out a way to fill that gap in our lives, to erase the itch, the pain, the burden of that missing that we feel deep in our spirits. See, Solomon knows that something is missing. And God, in his goodness, he knows exactly what's missing, even though Solomon doesn't. And so, he appeared to him that one time in Gibeon in that foreign place. Now in 1 Kings 9, God will appear to Solomon again. He gets 2 appearances directly from God, and God tries to help Solomon see what's missing from his life. This is right after the temple has been built and dedicated, and God chooses to dwell there, 1 Kings 9. The Lord said to him, I have heard the prayer and plea you have made before me, and so I have consecrated this temple that you've just built, and I've put my name there forever. I love this line. My eyes and my heart will always be with you. As for you, if you walk faithfully before me with integrity of heart and uprightness, as David your father did, and if you do all I command and observe my decrees and laws, I will establish your royal throne over Israel forever, as I promised David your father when I said, you shall never fail to have a successor on the throne of Israel. But, get this right, Solomon, if you or your descendants turn away from me and do not observe the commands and decrees I have given you, and go off and serve other gods and worship them, then I will cut off Israel from the land I have given them and will reject this temple that I have consecrated for my name. All right, I'll turn this car around. Israel will then become a byword and an object of ridicule among the peoples. This temple will become a heap of rubble. See, God knows what's missing in Solomon's life. God knows that Solomon has a heart condition, a fatal heart condition. And yet Solomon doesn't want to acknowledge this. God says to Solomon, he says, my eyes and my heart are always going to be with you, Solomon. I love you. But do you hear what he's saying? Back to Solomon, my heart's always going to be with you, but Solomon, where is your heart? See, God's trying to help Solomon see that in his pursuit of more and running after more and all of these projects, all of these ambitions, all of these relationships, what Solomon is doing is he's refusing to give his heart fully to God. Now, we called this week Solomon's greed. Now, I don't know about you, but often with these words like greed and these kind of, these bad words of stuff that we do wrong, they all start to just, lump together for me. So like greed and gluttony and lust, they all kind of sound the same. Like what's the difference? You just want more of something, and what's really the difference? And I'll tell you, lust and gluttony, those things kind of make sense to most people because they're about getting more and more. Why? Because it feels good. Because it's pleasurable. Indulging in food or indulging in other pleasure over and over again. We all understand that. It's easy to do because it feels good, and so you just want more and you want more and you want more. Greed is different. See, greed is not about enjoying. Greed is about possessing. Greed wants more and more and more because you want to be able to say, it's mine. You want to possess it. You want to have it. You want to be independently wealthy so you don't have to depend on anyone else. See, greed never really gets to enjoy because it's always in pursuit. It's about having or possessing, not enjoying. Now, Jocelyn, my wife, she tells me that this is kind of me, and I don't see myself as a greedy person, but she's got a point here because for me, I want the pantry full and I want the refrigerator full, but I kind of don't want to enjoy this stuff. I just want to know it's there, right? The last thing in a box or in a carton, like I will not consume it. And she's just like, why? And I'm like, because I want to have it there. And she's like, well, what's the point of having it there if you won't eat it? And I'm like, I don't know. I just want it there. See, I realize that this greed thing, even though it doesn't make sense to me, it's how I live. I want more and more and more because I think by possessing things, not enjoying things, but by possessing things, it gives me a sense of security. I know it's there. Or I wonder if I get enough things, then maybe I'll have a sense of satisfaction in my life. It'll satisfy me in some way to look at the refrigerator and see all these, cartons and containers with one thing inside of it. See, that's the pursuit that so many of us can be on. But it's a trick, it's a trap. This more and more thing, it's a trick, it's a trap. The way to really find satisfaction or security in life is not to pursue more and more and more things. It's to give yourself over fully to one thing. That's what God's saying to Solomon. Saying, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. Or as Jesus put it later, seek first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and everything else will be given to you. But seek the one thing. And see, that's not only the key to a life of true security. It's not gonna come in the abundance of things. It's gonna come from seeking the one thing, having the one thing right. And of course, that doesn't mean that you'll never go through anything hard when your heart is fully aligned with God's, when it's connected to God's. But that does mean that even when you go through hard things, even when you're experiencing great difficulty, He will shepherd you through it so those things don't crush you, they actually form you. And it's not just the key to security in life, but it's the key to true satisfaction. You will never be truly content or at peace or full until you let your heart align fully with the one it was created for. See, that's what God's saying to Solomon. You're chasing your tail here. You're doing all of these great things, but you're missing the one thing that will give you everything. And yet Solomon resisted the invitation. He continued to run around the world looking for the thing that God stood before him twice to offer him freely. And that's a caution for all of us. It's a big caution for all of us. People like us who are in an endless pursuit of we don't even know what, but we're just chasing the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And here's what I want you to know, that the God of heaven and earth, while you're pursuing everything else, he's solely in pursuit of you. He's chasing after you. And just like he stood before Solomon and offered this one thing freely, today he stands before you, maybe less visibly than he did for Solomon, but he's here and he's standing before you, offering you the one thing that you need more than anything, the one thing that will truly give you a sense of security, that will ease the weight of your insecurities, the one thing that will give you satisfaction, abundance, that will fulfill you. And yet the reality is we resist him too, don't we? Just like Solomon. And we keep running and running and running, chasing after other things, not realizing that those things will never give us security, those things will never satisfy. We need first to seek the one thing. Solomon's story is a great caution to people like us. And I want to show you how it ends, how his greed ultimately was his undoing. 1 Kings 11. King Solomon, however, loved many foreign women besides Pharaoh's daughter. So where was his heart? Not God's alone. He loved Moabites and Ammonites and Edomites and Sidonians and Hittites. There wasn't a woman that Solomon did not love, right? He loved all the ladies. All the ladies. Get a little Barry White there. They were from nations about which the Lord had told the Israelites, you must not intermarry with them because they will surely turn your hearts after their gods. Nevertheless, Solomon held fast to them in love. He had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines, and his wives led him astray. As Solomon grew old, his wives, hear this language? His wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God as the heart of his father David had been. He followed Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. So Solomon did evil in the eyes of the Lord. He did not follow the Lord completely as David, his father, had done. Not only that, it gets worse. I mean, this is how bad it gets for Solomon because he refused this invitation of God. On a hill east of Jerusalem, just outside of the capital, Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the detestable god of Moab, and for Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. He did the same for all of his foreign wives who burned incense and offered sacrifices to their gods. Now, just understand what's going on here. Not only has Solomon refused to give his heart fully to God, but in the land of Israel itself, just outside of the capital, he starts building these temples, these high places, these idol worship venues for his people to go and worship. And I want to drill down for a second just to tell you about this, because these gods, specifically Chemosh and Molech, those two gods that were named, these were, when God says these are detestable gods, he means it. These were gods that were, they demanded not just kind of some really crazy ways of worship, but they demand child sacrifice. People would literally feed their babies to these statues with fires inside of them. They would have their babies consumed by these gods. These were gods that demanded the sacrifices of people's children. So when God talks about the detestable practices of the other people and you should not marry these women because your heart will be led astray to their gods, and he's not like, Solomon, I can't believe you read a book on Buddhism. How dare you? He really means that these are destructive things. They are going to hurt people, innocent lives. These are unjust practices. And Solomon, in pursuit of, wisdom or being cosmopolitan or trying to be, a good leader and give everybody something that they want, he builds these places where people are sacrificing their children just outside the capital city of Jerusalem. Look at how God responds. You can understand this. The Lord became angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. And although he had forbidden Solomon to follow other gods, Solomon did not keep the Lord's command. So the Lord said to Solomon, since this is your attitude and you have not kept my covenant and my decrees which I commanded you, I will most certainly tear the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your subordinates. Nevertheless, for the sake of your father David, I will not do it during your lifetime. I will tear it out of the hand of your son. Solomon was so close. On the surface, he had wealth and he had wisdom and everything was going well. His leadership report card was a 95%, but something was missing, right? Something was not quite right. Be distrustful of things that look perfect. See, while Solomon was killing it in so many different ways, he failed in the most basic and yet the most critical way. He failed to love God. And you know, that's the only failure that actually disqualifies us in our relationship with God. It's a rejection of him, a failure to love him. This is important for us to understand because we're living in a world where you can be disqualified for anything. The list grows by the day. You don't even know what's on the list until someone, tells you, oh, I'm adding this to the list and then I'm disqualifying you, right? You can be canceled for anything in our world today, but that's not how God works. God is pretty clear. His list is pretty simple. There is one thing that will disqualify us, and that is a refusal to love him. See, I'll never stop saying this until we get it. God's greatest question is not, are you good? It's not, are you perfect? It's not, have you been successful? It's not, are you performing well? It's not, are you doing great things in my name? It's not, are you building palaces and temples? And God's greatest question is not, are you good? But are you mine? See, this is so important for us to understand. Because for me, I want to be good. I want to be a good dad. I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good leader. I want to do good. I want to leave the world better than when I came into it. I want to contribute something. I want so badly to be good. And yet I know that I'm an imperfect person. And it's such a refreshing, reassuring truth that God ultimately is not grading me on all of those categories of goodness. Instead, he's simply saying to me, do you love me? Are you mine? That's all I care about. See, this is so important for us as we seek to live these rich lives, these lives of meaning, these lives of significance that we're all about living. It's so important for us to remember that we can do a million good things, but if we have not answered this question well, then we're missing everything. If we haven't put the first thing first, if we've missed the love of God, if we've not set our hearts there first and foremost, then all is lost. It's a warning, but it's a comfort. It's a comfort to know that God isn't grading you on every aspect of your life. He's simply inviting you into relationship, and his biggest question is not, are you good? It's, are you mine? See, Solomon kept refusing him, didn't get this, and the reality was, although it looked like it was perfect, he ended up being a miserable failure of a leader. The kingdom was torn apart. Israel was embroiled in idol worship. Things got really, really bad. But here's the real truth. The truth is, Solomon was never supposed to be the king who would take Israel to their pinnacle. See, the promises that God had spoken about to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, David, all the rest, they were never actually about Solomon, so-called man of peace. They were always about someone else. A few hundred years later, the prophet Isaiah would reflect on this, and I think this is a direct challenge to the view that Solomon was this great king. Look at these words from Isaiah. He says, a shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse. Jesse was David's father. So he's basically saying, hey, the line has been cut off. We just heard about that. The line has been cut off. The line of Jesse, of David, it's dead, and yet God's about to do something. A shoot will come up out of this dead stump. From his roots, a branch will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of real wisdom and of understanding, not the wisdom of Solomon, greater than that, the Spirit of counsel and of might. The spirit of the knowledge and the fear of the Lord. He will get this thing right. And this king, he will delight in the fear of the Lord. That will be his first priority. He will not judge by what he sees with his eyes and decide what he hears with his ears. But with righteousness he will judge the needy. With justice he will give decisions for the poor of the earth. He will strike the earth, but not with a weapon, but with the rod of his mouth. With his word, with the breath of his lips, he will slay the wicked. Righteousness will be his belt, and faithfulness the sash around his waist. The wolf will live with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the goat. You want to talk about peace? He's going to bring real peace. This is the golden age, the calf and the lion and the yearling together. And a little child, remember that? Lord, I'm just a little child. I don't know what I'm doing. A little child, but one who has true wisdom and understanding, one who will be a true king of peace, will again lead them. In that day, the root of Jesse will stand as a banner for the peoples, and the nations will rally to him, not just to hear his wise verdicts, cut the baby in two, or to hear about plant life or botany or biology or zoology. The nations will rally to him because he will be a source of life. He will be a resting place for all people, and it will be glorious. See, Solomon was never supposed to be the guy. He got so close, and yet there was something missing, and that's on purpose. That's so that someday we would look for another. We'd look for the one who actually did all these things that we looked at earlier in a totally different way, who fed people not just fish and loaves, but fed them with his word, who started a worldwide movement, not just from the Euphrates to the Mediterranean, but a kingdom that has no borders. He came to bring peace, not just from enemies, but peace to our enemies. He came to bring blessing to all nations. See, Solomon is there to get us looking for the one who is truly perfect. And here's the takeaway for you. No matter how perfect your life gets, you look around and you just be like, man, I'm living it. I'm living the dream. No matter how perfect your life gets, you will always be far away from true security, from true satisfaction, until you learn to look to another. Until you learn what it is to truly love and be loved, until you make yourself fully his. Let me pray. God in heaven, we are people in constant pursuit of a life that matters, of a life that's good, a life that's comfortable, a life of meaning, a life of success, a life of satisfaction, a life of security. God, we're running all the time in pursuit of those things. And yet it's often the pursuit itself that keeps us from enjoying. And Lord, it is so easy for us to miss in all of our pursuing of so many things. It is so easy for us to miss the one thing. So Lord, whoever we are right now, wherever we are in our relationship with you, I pray that just as real as you stood before Solomon in Gibeon and you wooed him, you invited him into relationship with you, Lord, wherever we are right now, I pray that you would come, that you would stand before us, and Lord, you would invite our hearts into a deep, true, lasting love of you, God, that you would win us over, that our hearts would become fully yours. And Lord, some of us, we're not accustomed to talking language of the heart. We're intellectual people, we're doing people, yet Lord, I pray you'd speak to every one of our hearts today. That you would call our hearts home to you. God, that you would just impress upon us that as good as we try to make life will never be good until we get this one thing right, until our hearts are at home with you. So God, bring our hearts home to you. Put yourself in the highest place, the first place, the primary place, that we might find the security, the satisfaction, all the things we long for in you. God, make it happen. We pray in Jesus. Amen.
Hey, thanks for being with us here today at Pathfinder. If you're new, there are a lot of helpful resources on our website at pathfinderstl.org, or you can find those in the description below. While you're on our website, don't forget to check out our message podcast so you can listen to the message wherever you are and when you're on the go. And finally, don't forget to like this video, share it with a friend, and leave a comment so that we know that you're watching. We hope you guys have a great week.